Hey, my name is Kenny.
And I'm Elias.
And this is the podcast workshop. So I'm going to teach you guys how to open a project, how to create a track, how to record, add music and edit, and finally export in GarageBand. So once you click the GarageBand icon, it's going to ask you to choose a project. You want to click empty project and then click choose. Then it's going to ask you to create your track type. You want to make sure that you choose the microphone and then hit create. You want to make sure that you unselect the metronome and then select time so you can see the duration of your podcast. GarageBand is actually very simple to use. To start recording, hit the record button. This first example is an example of very good crisp audio. You want your sound clips to look like this. This second example is audio that is too loud, so when you play it back, it's going to sound very distorted. The third example is an example of a sound clip that is too low. So basically, it's going to sound exactly how it looks. So you just want to make sure that you're putting your mouth close to the microphone. By putting your cursor in the highlighted area and by dragging either left or right, you can cut your sound clip. Right above that is the loop tool, and by dragging in the opposite direction, you can loop your sound clip. If you have an MP3 on your desktop, you can simply just click and drag it into your project. Another way to make a cut is by moving the playhead to where you want to make that cut, right-clicking, and then going to split at playhead. When you do that, it creates two sound clips, and then you can click and delete what you don't need. By simply clicking and dragging, you can move your sound clips. So if I wanted to turn down my MP3, I could go to Show Automation or press A on my keyboard. When you do this, it gives you an internalized view of your sound clip. By clicking anywhere on the sound clip, you'll get a volume meter, and then you can drag that either up or down to decrease or increase your volume. So you can make keyframes to fade in and out your music by clicking on that line and then making 2 points and then dragging one down. And then you can do that on either side of your clip to fade in and fade out your music. If you want to copy your sound clip, you could right click and hit copy and then paste it to your desired location. Keep in mind, in order to re-edit your project, save it as a GarageBand file. To save as a GarageBand file, go to File and click Save As. When you are ready to turn in your project, it needs to be an MP3 file. To do that, go to Share, Export Song to Disk, and make sure MP3 is selected and then hit Export.
Now I'll talk about some technical tips for when you record your podcast. So you want to be intentional with the space you record in. You want to avoid such noises such as AC units, hums and buzzes, cars and street noises, and doors opening and closing. If you want to dilute some of these noises, you can always put a blanket over your head to get that extra sound out. Once you start recording, try not to bump the mic or hit the computer during the duration of your podcast. If you're recording on the field, feel free to use a phone or an earbud with a microphone in it to use as your external mic. Once you do that, please make sure it's underneath the chin so you can get rid of that hard S's, P's, and T sounds, which are called plosives. If a sound interrupts your interview, please ask them to repeat what they just said or repeat what you said if you've gotten interrupted. All right, cool. Now we're going to talk about background music. Background music is really important to a podcast. It helps with the flow of emotion throughout the duration of the recording. What I recommend is use instrumental music that will convey the emotion you want the audience to feel. The background music should try to match what you're trying to talk about in the podcast. So you won't have, heavy metal music playing while you're talking about your neighbor's newborn baby, all right? It should definitely match. If you're looking for a good source of free music, it's also copyright free, go to the YouTube audio library. Once you go to the YouTube audio library, you can order it by genre, instrument, and duration, and you can download it on the right-hand side of the screen. There's a lot of indie artists that put music on there, and we use it for a lot of our videos and podcasts all the time. Now I want to talk about some creative tips. Think of it like a performance, all right? You want to be entertaining to the audience. You do not want to read off a piece of paper. If you're doing this podcast by yourself, feel free to bring a friend that you can talk to as a person, even if they don't say anything. That way you're explaining it to another human and you don't sound as robotic and you seem that more interesting and knowledgeable of the topic. You want to give your podcast a structure, all right? It's definitely good to repeat things at least 3 times. Another structure that you may want to use is past, present, future. So how you felt about a topic in the past, how you feel about it now, and how you feel about it in the future. Find a podcast you enjoy. See what makes it stand out and take note of it. Don't be afraid to put that in your own podcast as well as show your own personality. It is easy to overdo it. Sometimes we like to go on a tangent, Just be sure you're aware of it and reel it in back to the topic at hand. Some resources you may use to edit your podcast is GarageBand, as we talked about before, or you can use Adobe Audition and also Audacity, which is all free for UK students. The Media Depot is open 10 to 10 Monday through Thursday, 10 to 8 on Friday. The computer labs are open when the library is open, so feel free to come in before 10 or stay after 10 if you guys need to work on the computers. We just won't be there as staff to help you guys directly. We have a podcast room and we also have 2 audio rooms. If the podcast room is all booked up, don't forget that we do have an audio room. The audio room has 1 microphone, whereas the podcast room has 3 microphones, which is good for group settings. If all 3 of those rooms are booked, don't forget we do have study rooms and we can still help you guys record with your laptops or personal phones.